Okay. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. A little. This is my first stream, so it's a little chalky. Just trying to get it right. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Duality 7X. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host Shiraz. Here we try to cover all the latest, greatest trending stories when it comes to the world of MMA, UFC, WWE, and boxing. And yesterday was an unbelievable event, an MMA event, and I'm not talking about UFC. This time it was Jake Paul's MVP Promotions. They put on a spectacular event, and it all went down at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. It was Jake Paul, Nakisa Bidarian, and of course, fellow stakeholders and business affiliates. But wow, did they put on a card? It was really nice to see some of the UFC referees and some of the more, I guess, familiar faces that were in MMA, and I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, overall, I think it was quite outstanding. I'm going to talk on the screen. You guys can see there was a number of matches here, obviously, a number of fights. It was incredible. The prelims were really good as well, too, guys. But I'm not going to talk a lot about the prelims, but I do kind of want to actually one of these fights was with Fazil and Jake Babian. This was pretty interesting, guys. This Fazil character, he's got some vigor to him. I mean, he can fight. At one point, it looked like he was he was underperforming. Babian had the best of him. A couple shots here, couple shots there. It looked like it was going to be the end of Fazil, and then out of nowhere, this guy got like a second win, and he just started to pour it on. Once he started to gain that confidence, things started to move forward with him for him, and he ended up getting the victory. But what shocked me was after the fact, he started to call out the likes of Arman Sarukian, and he called him out. And when you have to understand, usually at an event like this, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be attending this event. And although you may not see them necessarily on camera, that doesn't mean that they're not actually there. In fact, Arman Sarukian was in attendance with his entourage, as was guys like Rampage Jackson, Jon Jones, which we'll get to a little bit later. He was doing a little bit of color commentary, sitting at the booth there with Tyrone Woodley. And I mean, when Arman Sarukian's name was called, he came out immediately. He even shook hands with Fazil. But then he started to ask him questions, which started to make Fazil a little bit uncomfortable. And then at one point, Arman actually tried to go around some of the folks and the security and tried to jump the cage. And not the cage in the octagon, but just the fence, and yeah, and then afterwards that didn't work. So then he started to go into the locker room area and tried to find Fazil there. So there's definitely going to be some drama in that sense. I like it. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that totally hypes up, markets a fight, and it was a lot of fun. But what I do want to get to is and look, I'm going to talk about the three main events cards, that with Francis Ngannou, Mike Perry, and of course what do you call it, Nate Diaz, and then of course the main event with Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano. Now, I want to get into that, guys, but before I get into that, I'm just going to quickly show you here. These were some of the other fights that were on the prelims. It was great, guys. It's really good because I mean there was no issues with anyone trying to meet weight or having problems with weight. There were two bouts that were canceled, unfortunately. Some of the fighters had got injured, but yeah, I mean overall it was a great card. I was very very impressed. Excuse me. I have allergies. If you guys have been watching my videos, then you'll know I'm quite jacked up on a lot of medicine as of late, so you have to excuse me. But let's get into it, guys. Let's talk about the first fight. I want to talk about Francis Ngannou versus Philipe Lins. This was a fight that a lot of people wanted to see. A lot of people were talking about. There was a lot of hype leading up into this fight. A lot of buildup. It did not disappoint. I'm gonna be I'm gonna tell you something. It's a funny story. I was actually talking to somebody on the phone while this fight was going on, and at one point, the person that I was speaking to, they must have like accidentally knocked over their remote or something, and they lost the feed temporarily, the Netflix feed, and then so they had to actually go back, log in, but in while doing so, they also lost I guess the connection to Netflix, so they were back onto their main screen. Then they had to log onto their screen, go back into Netflix, sign in, and then try to find the event, and then hit go live. At that point, the fight was already over. So this is why they say don't blink. If you guys remember last week with Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley fight, it was headlined "Don't blink" because within the first 10 seconds of that fight, Fabio Wardley landed a crushing right overhand to Daniel Dubois, and he was knocked down temporarily, but was able to beat the count, and ended up getting knocked down again, took the knee, but then came back to win the fight. But that's why they say don't blink, because especially in a fight like this, guys, when you have heavyweights, anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen. So I did give it away. These are, the cool thing about the MVP promotions. Now, whether it's cool, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, I mean, usually, typically, you're talking about 3-minute rounds. In this case, these were 5-minute rounds. So, I mean, your cardio has to be next level just to be able to keep up. I noticed there was a lot of early stoppages, like round one stoppages, and that's probably because the 5 minutes was quite daunting for a lot of the fighters. Usually around the 3-minute mark, then people get to go back. The fighters get to go back to their corners, sit down, and then you have the training staff there attending to them, get them all fresh and ready to go for the next round. So they get like a little tiny kind of break. But that said, in this case, these 5-minute rounds proved to be quite exciting. There was a lot of action. It was a lot of fun. Francis Ngannou, as you can see, he got the knockout, he got the TKO victory with the beautiful overhand left that stunned Philippe, and just like that, Philippe was down in 4 minutes and 31 seconds of round number one. So literally 29 seconds left to the end of the round, and Philippe was down. Francis Ngannou was actually quite impressed with them. I mean, this he did mention, he did say that, he gave a lot of respect to Philippe. He did mention that, he came out, he shocked him a little bit, he landed some good shots. But I mean, you could clearly see the difference as well too, right? I mean, Francis Ngannou, I mean, if you take a look at his stats, I mean, this guy's 18-3-0 compared to 18-5-0. So their records are very, very similar. But Francis Ngannou, slightly younger. He's at 39 years, almost turning 40, whereas Philippe was 40 years, going on to turn 41 soon. And look at the weight discrepancy here. Francis Ngannou came in at 257 pounds compared to 220 pounds from Philippe. And I mean, at 6'4" compared to 6'2", clearly Francis Ngannou had the bigger reach as well too, with 83 inches compared to 78 inches for Philippe. That 5 inches makes a huge difference, guys. I mean, if anything, Francis Ngannou, all he had to do was just jab, 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 and he would have probably won just on that merit alone. A lot of people, I mean, 98% of I mean, out of those polled, 98% of the people felt that Francis Ngannou was going to win, and when he did, he improved his record now, and now there's a lot of questions, right? Because I mean, you have to understand. I mean, Francis Ngannou last competed in an octagon back in 2024, and so I mean that is a little bit of time ago. I mean, he is a former UFC champion, and I mean, he's also fought in boxing matches, one against Tyson Fury, which he actually knocked Tyson Fury down a couple times, but he ended up losing that fight, and then he lost again against Anthony Joshua. And a lot of people said that Francis Ngannou should have prepared a little bit more for the Anthony Joshua fight, but that said, Anthony Joshua did get the victory in that. And I mean, when you look at Lins, I mean, with an 18-5 record, very, very similar to Francis Ngannou. I mean, Lins is a former PFL heavyweight champion, or a tournament winner, sorry. But he was released. He was also in the UFC for a brief stint, but he was released back in 2024, and there was rumors about him going on to GFL. But then again, it didn't happen, and these guys ended up meeting at the MVP event, and it was absolutely golden, guys. I loved it. I think this is the kind of fight that Francis needed. Uh, get that confidence going a little bit, and just to kind of get his name out there, right? Because I mean, I feel for like the longest time, Francis Ngannou's just being kind of under the radar a little bit. So this gives him an opportunity to kind of get back into people's periphery, so to speak, and to show the world that he's here and he's a force to be reckoned with. So very, very good. I think that was, again, it was beautiful. Now, I mean, I think personally, with this victory, Francis sends an entire. I mean, it was a statement win. He's sending a message to the entire division, entire roster, entire world of combat sports, primarily those in the UFC, because there was one person in particular. I mean, aside from Jake Paul, who he has made very, very clear that he wants to fight, there was one other individual who was actually in attendance that he would like a piece of, and that's none other than Jon Jones, John Bones. And like, I mean, I'm telling you, the hype leading up to this, with just having Jon Jones in the audience. um Francis Ngannou was aware that he was going to be there. I actually did a video on this, and he said that's fine. He actually has a lot of respect for Jon Jones. But it's pretty clear that after this victory against Philippe, he called him out, and he said that he wants him, and he wants to make sure that this fight actually happens. I mean, when you have to understand, like, I mean, the Francis Ngannou is a lineal heavyweight champion, and he's got a lot of options right now at this point. There's a lot of people who are actually talking about where Francis Ngannou is actually gonna go, what he's actually going to do, and I think one of the big key factors in all this is that if the promoters can actually see some economic viability or value in having Francis Ngannou take on somebody like the likes of Jon Jones, I think they're going to try to see if they can try to make it happen. When Ariel Helwani was actually talking to Francis Ngannou afterwards in the octagon, uh, Jake Paul was also there too. He was kind of watching, and Ariel Helwani asked Francis Ngannou about his future, and the two huge names, right, which you just talked about, Jon Jones and Jake Paul, and what Francis Ngannou actually wanted to do, and where his head was at. And Ngannou addressed both men. He sounded more interested in wanting to fight Jon Jones than he did Jake Paul. And I mean, look, neither fight is easy to make, clearly. I mean, Ariel Helwani in the interview did point out that Jon Jones was standing up in the broadcast booth, and he was kind of waving. and Jones was standing up there, and that's when everything really started to unfold. And then Ngannou just essentially just kind of took the opportunity to call out Bones and say, "Look, man, I have a lot of respect for you. I think he's probably one of the greatest, in MMA, but he still wants the opportunity to share the cage with Jon Jones himself at least one more time before both of these fighters officially retire." And that statement in itself just got everybody talking. I started to, my phone started to blow up. I mean, people on social media were just reacting, and it was crazy, right? I mean, it's one of this is one of those matches, guys. It's one of the biggest what if stories that could potentially happen in MMA. And I mean, look, Ngannou's no longer with the UFC. He had a little bit of a falling out. Like back in 2023, there was a contract dispute, and it's quite public. It's all over social media. So if you're not really fully aware with the context, I encourage you guys to go and take a look. But Jon Jones is also kind of in a weird kind of a predicament. Jon Jones, as you're aware, wanted to come back. There was a lot of rumors about him potentially coming back and fighting at the UFC Freedom 250 White House card. And unfortunately, that never really came to fruition. In fact, we were kind of strung along with the consensus that it was actually going to happen because Jon Jones was on social media a lot, talking about updates, talking about how he's been having negotiations with the UFC and how great those negotiations were going and how excited he was about the opportunity to return. So I thought it was pretty much a done deal. I thought this was a go, and that in itself was super like fascinating. And then ironically, the craziest thing happened. Alex Pereira vacated his light heavyweight championship title. And I mean, he's always had a desire of wanting to move up to heavyweight. We know that Shama's been talking about this for quite some time. It wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. And as soon as he vacated that title and moved into the heavyweight ranks, I was like, this is it. And it wasn't me just saying it. Everybody across social media was talking about Jon Jones, Alex Pereira, UFC, Freedom 250, White House card on June 14th on President Donald Trump's birthday and celebrating America's 250th birthday. What a treat. This was going to headline the card. I was just blown away. This is what I thought was going to happen. And Jon Jones was saying, yeah, negotiations are going great and this and that. So how could it not? I mean, if I was betting on Polymarket, I would have probably lost everything. But then Dana White comes out and Dana White essentially says, no, there's not even a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance that Jon Jones is going to fight in the UFC. And that left everybody stunned. Everybody was shocked because everybody's like, what? What's going on here? Because it looked like Jon Jones was healthy. He's coming back. Everything's looking good. And then all of a sudden, no, we're hearing something different. So I don't know if that was a tactic or what, but it actually turned out that that was the truth. And instead, Alex Pereira will be fighting. I mean, and I thought it made perfect sense. I mean, here's a guy who vacated his title, his light heavyweight championship title, so he can move into heavyweight. And then we've got Jon Jones, who is a heavyweight fighter, who's going to go and take that slot against Alex Pereira, and they're going to fight for the title. And no, it's not going to happen. In fact, now we're going to see Cyril Gane, who last competed against Tom Aspinall and the whole controversy with the double eye poke. And Cyril Gane's going to be taking on Alex Pereira. So I was just shocked. I was just blown away. Anyhow, so now we have the situation, and after that, Jon Jones was super upset. He was disgruntled, frustrated. He went online and talked all the smack against Dana White and the UFC, and he even told UFC, look, if you're not going to use me, release me. And then just recently, Jon Jones was in DC. He filed to start up his new promotion called Dirty Boxing. And then just shortly after that, he he's at UFC 327 in the audience, uh, and um, and he's chatting it up with Hunter Campbell, one of UFC's senior execs. Uh, Shocking, and they were talking about the possibility of a Jon Jones comeback, but obviously there's a lot of I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed, and they have to figure this, they need to figure that out. And so, anyhow, I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. So, I mean, wherever Jon Jones is going, I mean, people are asking questions. It's obviously there's a lot of hype and intrigue as to what he's going to do. Is the great one going to come back, and is he going to have one more fight to kind of close out his chapter and his storybook ending? And I mean, if that does happen, the only weird thing though is he's still contractually obligated to his employer, the UFC. So with Francis Ngannou, who's with MVP Promotions, and Jake Paul, how does that work? How do you get that scenario where Ngannou can fight Jon Jones? I mean, the only way realistically, um, well, there's a couple options. Option number one, which I don't know if this is even possible, but Francis Ngannou somehow returns to the UFC and revives contract talks, with the company, gets in good order, has a heart to heart with Dana White to talk about what happened back in 2023. He grabbed Dana White by the collar. Everybody knows that story. So it wasn't very professional of Francis. But that said, this is the fight game. This is the fight business. Anything can happen. Anything can go down. And it would be very, very interesting to see what happens. If that does happen, then realistically, the fight between him and Jon Jones seems highly, highly likely. But the fact of that the option to see Francis Ngannou come back into the folds of the UFC is highly, highly unlikely. This is my opinion, guys. So the other option would be that Jon Jones would get released from the UFC and open the door to create this super, super fight. And you got to understand, if you're the UFC, if you're Dana, and if you're the brass of the UFC, you understand that Jon Jones is contractually obligated to your organization. Would you just let Jon Jones go? Would you just release him knowing that somebody like Jake Paul, Nakisa Bidarian are going to pick him up for MVP Promotions, or Eddie Hearn, one of Dana White's nemesis from Matchroom Boxing, who currently who's currently promoting and managing Tom Aspinall, who is also contractually obligated to the UFC right now, but Eddie Hearns and Dana White do not get along. So why would the UFC release him early, knowing that it's quite possible that something like that can happen? And I can clearly see if they do release him, Jake Paul MVP will pick up Jon Jones right away, and the fight between him and Francis Ngannou would happen. It'll probably be one of the biggest fights, money-making fights of this era, hands down. So I don't see the UFC incentivized enough to be able to release Jon Jones anytime soon. So anyhow, guys, Jon Jones, when asked about it, did appear interested. He also admitted that escaping that deal that he has with the UFC is not going to be easy by any stretch. But yeah, I mean, but when it comes to Jake Paul, Francis Ngannou had a little bit of a different tone towards him. I mean, the Cameroonian heavyweight essentially took shots at his promoter right now, Most Valuable Promotions, and co-founder, and claimed that Paul wasn't really the one really running MVP anyway, so it didn't really matter what Jake Paul said. Kind of threw him a little bit under the bus, made him look like kind of small in a sense. But Ngannou even called him like a blah 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 guy, essentially probably referring to somebody who just talks a lot of smack and a lot of what, um, and doesn't and you can take it with like a grain of salt, right? So anyhow, at this point, it doesn't feel like Francis Ngannou and Jake Paul are going to lock up horns anytime soon. And then we still don't even know what's happening with Jake Paul, because right now, as it stands, Jake Paul is I mean, he says he's cleared by the doctors to compete, but I mean, we don't know if he can really compete. So anyhow, guys, we know that this is the fight that Francis Ngannou wants, and potentially Jon Jones as well too. Whether or not the contractual obligations of Jon Jones is going to make that happen or not, it'll be interesting to see. But nonetheless, Francis Ngannou was able to come out of this. The fight that he had against Philippe basically banked him $1.5 million, and Philippe walked away with, I believe, $100,000. So 15 times less. But anyways, that's that, guys. So I want to move on. That was one of the co-main events, guys, and then I want to talk about Nate Diaz. I want to talk about Nate Diaz and Mike Platinum Perry, sorry. What a slobber knocker this was, guys. I mean, it was bloody, it was gory, uh, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. To see, I mean, Perry came out, and I mean, both of these guys came out strong. Perry, of course, ended up winning the fight in round number two. At the fifth, like essentially right at the end of round two, I mean, it was pretty much done. The Nate Diaz was so beaten up. He was bleeding from, I mean, several places from his head. There was so much blood on the canvas, and they just had to stop it. I mean, the cut man who was working on Nate Diaz, who's a seasoned veteran himself, he just said, no, we're calling this. There's no way they can release their fighter out there for any more brutality. Mike clearly looked like he had the momentum. He had the fresher legs. It was a blood. It was oh gosh, it was like a scene from a horror movie. I mean, Nate Diaz is 21-13, guys. I mean, he's got such an impeccable record. Now he's 21-14. Um, he was kind of going into this though as a slight underdog by a lot of people's accounts. I mean, this guy is 41 years old. He's getting up there in age. He's 6 feet, 76-inch reach, and then of course Mike Perry's got a 14-8 record. Now he's 15-8. He was a slight heavyweight, slight favorite, sorry. And then of course he was just, yeah, these guys were almost about the same height. He came in at 5'10", Perry did, but he had a slightly, um, his reach wasn't as great. I mean, I think Nate had a 5-inch reach advantage, which, I mean, especially a guy who can box, Nate Diaz, that is, if he kind of focused on the jabs a little bit more, because he was tattooing Perry a few times. I saw that with his jabs, and he even cut him up a little bit. So he should have kind of focused a little bit more on that. Of course, people had Diaz to win this fight. When they asked Jake Paul about it, Jake Paul also said that he was leaning more towards Nate Diaz winning this fight. But what a show, guys. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, like Nate Diaz competed. I mean, he was in the UFC. He competed in bare knuckle, like FC. Perry was in bare knuckle as well too. I mean, these guys can fight, and these guys can throw down. I mean, round one was just pure chaos. I mean, just right from the opening second, Perry just came charging at Nate Diaz. And that forward pressure, I think, stunned Nate Diaz a little bit. He caught himself a little bit on the back foot, but then Perry gave him through kind of like a head kick towards his way. Nate Diaz, with his experience, was able to kind of curtail through that and persevere. But then Perry just started exploding, to his feet, and then just essentially cracked Nate with a heavy right, and then followed it up with a few more. And I mean, you could see it in Nate's eyes. He started to look a little bit frustrated. He wasn't able to gain any footing. His footwork wasn't as fresh. It wasn't as crisp as Mike's was. Mike did look like he had a little bit more athleticism, and that's, I don't know. I mean, And it's not to undermine Nate Diaz's skills or anything like that. I mean, when you really look at it, guys, um, the wear and tear that Nate Diaz has put himself through, I think, was one of the reasons that he did look a little bit slower and a little bit off tune, so to speak, against his opponent. But then, yeah, round one. I mean, these guys were these guys were trading nonstop. A couple times, Nate Diaz was on the floor. Mike just kind of let him up, and then and closer to the end of round number one, that's when he saw Nate Diaz come back a little bit. He started to open up with his jabs. He busted Perry open a little bit on his left side of his cheek, but it didn't deter Perry at all. He kept going forward. With that forward pressure, landing huge shots. And I think what really did Nate Diaz in was those brutal elbows that Mike was um, hitting Diaz with, and then a crushing knee to the stomach. Looked like Nate Diaz lost the wind for a second there. I thought he was going down, but no, he was resilient. He stayed the course and he was still out there. It was an absolute bloodbath, guys. It was crazy. Um, Round number two was crazy as well too. I mean, again, Nate Diaz came out trying to fire off on a few jabs. But I mean, and they landed clean. They landed clean. That's one thing I'm definitely going to give Nate Diaz, because he has great boxing skills and he's known for that. But Perry kept coming back. He had answers to all of his combinations. He even landed a Superman punch against Nate Diaz, and then another crushing blow to the body that folded Diaz for like a brief moment there. And then Diaz tried to come back with some more jabs and some counters, but it wasn't enough. Um, as soon as Perry came in close, he was landing uppercuts, harder shots, cleaner shots, and then an elbow to the neck in close. By the middle of the round, both of these guys were completely covered in blood. Nate looked gassed. Mike still looked like he had gas to go on a few more rounds, which looked really scary. I mean, Perry stayed aggressive. He was smashing them with elbows and these heavy flurries and counters. It was just too much for Diaz at the end of the day, and that was it. I mean, Nate Diaz ended up losing. I think he'll come back. Okay, whether you want him to or not, but Nate Diaz was able to pocket $500,000 in this fight. Perry came out with $400,000. It was pure chaos, pure violence at its highest, guys. This is exactly what the fans expected. This is exactly what the fans wanted. The question, though, is going to come down to now is, what do you do with Nate Diaz? Where do you go with Nate Diaz from here? Um, did he show enough to you guys, enough to warrant that he should be coming back to fight again, or do you think this is it? It's over for Nate. But Mike still looked very fresh. He looked ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an opportunity to compete in MMA again at the highest level. And if not with the UFC, perhaps this was enough to in you know raise the eyebrow of Jake Paul and Nikki Sabedarian, and perhaps maybe even sign him to a long-term deal, because he was quite explosive and he looked impressive. And this is somebody that you can definitely market and hype up some fights around for sure. And then, guys, I want to get to the meat and potatoes, guys, what everybody wanted to talk about. Let's talk about Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano. This is the fight that everybody has been talking about. Um, I mean, the main event. I don't even know how to begin, guys, because I mean, these two ladies are trailblazers, okay? For all that they've been able to accomplish, in the octagon, outside of the octagon, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, Gina Carano, she looked fantastic. I mean, at 44 years old, she looked great. She looked really, really good. She's, I mean, it's been 17 years since Gina Carano's been in an octagon ring, in an octagon, sorry, ring, cage. She lost against Cyborg, and then after that, Gina Carano's career just exploded. She was doing movies, action star. I mean, unbelievable. And then she did gain quite a bit of weight. And when she had this opportunity to fight, to fight Ronda Rousey, to come back and have this one last fight potentially. Gina Carano started to train and train. She did. She lost 100 pounds. It was absolutely crazy. And I mean, for everything that these women had accomplished in their careers, respectively, in the octagon, outside of the octagon, this return for these two ladies to be in the same octagon against one another could have actually been one of the biggest MMA events this year. Even although both of these fighters have been out of the scene for quite some time, it didn't matter because I know there's a lot of people out there who were absolutely beside themselves when they found out that these two were going to meet in the octagon, unfinished business, and fight. Ronda's 12-2. She's got a great record, guys. She's 12-2. I mean, she lost. You know, well, I mean, before I even talk about her losses, I mean, Ronda Rousey's, she's a former Strike Force and UFC champion. So, I mean, she knows what it takes to be a champion. She knows the kind of training and the fortitude that's required to compete at that highest level. I mean, you have to hand it to Ronda. She took women's MMA to a whole new level, to heights that have never happened before, especially in any combat sports, be it boxing, MMA. Ronda was able to do that. I mean, Gina was kind of like the pioneer, the trailblazer, if you want to call it. Sorry, who kind of helped bring more excitement to the women's division. But I think it was Ronda who was able to take that torch from her and take it to heights that we've never seen before. And she brought women's MMA into mainstream fighting, and I think the UFC has a lot to thank her for it. The entire world of combat sports has to thank her for it. But when Ronda Rousey fought Holly Holmes back in 2015, she lost, and then she came back. She took on Amanda Nunes in 2016, and she lost. And then at that point, she just kind of hung it up. She's like, "This is it. I'm out." She left the sport. She competed in WWE for a while. She became the women's world champion in the WWE. Uh, I mean, she's a bronze like judo medalist. I mean, this is like when I talk about the things that she's been able to achieve, not only in MMA but outside of MMA, it's absolutely unfathomable to think that there's a lot of people that I run into who don't even have time to mow the lawn or to go get their car washed because they say they're so busy. Here's a lady who has a family, who has kids, who's been able to do all these things and more, and she still keeps on going. Absolutely crazy. It's unbelievable, guys. She came in at 5'6", 2 inches smaller than her opponent, Gina Carano. Their reach is about the same, but she came in at 39 years, and again, Carano was at 44 years. Yeah, very, very interesting, guys. Carano is 7-1. I mean, she defeated Julie Kedzie back in 2007, and she was recognized as the first nationally televised women's. Well, when she fought Julie, that was the first nationally televised women's MMA event. Imagine the first one. But then when she lost to Chris Cyborg back in 2009, 2 years later, uh, Cyborg also is considered to be a trailblazer, a pioneer herself. Both of these women were just unbelievable. But after that, then Carano just yeah, she took a break from fighting and appeared in many TV shows and movies that I kind of alluded to. I mean, uh, this was an opportunity for her to come back and to give back a little bit more, and she did absolutely great, guys. But unfortunately, This fight didn't last longer than 17 seconds. So she didn't do that great in this one, but she did do great in her MMA career. Um, Ronda was just too strong. She just looked like she was like, it looked like she was like Ronda was like tied to chains, and she's just huffing and puffing. She had this like mean look on her face. She just needed these chains to break loose so she could just tear Gina Carano apart like a wild, rabid beast. But and that she did. I mean, it took 17 seconds. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Ronda was able to take home $2.2 million for her performance, and Gina Carano took home $1,050,000 in a losing effort. But nonetheless, I mean, if this fight would have kept on going, I was afraid that Ronda Rousey was going to break Gina Carano's arm. CM Punk was interviewed just before before this fight, and he called it. He thought that Ronda Rousey, he knows both of these women. He has a lot of admiration and respect for them, but he said Ronda was going to win most likely by an armbar, and that she did. She won by an armbar. And luckily, she was in a good mood, and luckily, she had a lot of respect for Gina because she could have easily broke her arm. Anyways, guys, that is it. That I just kind of wanted to recap some of these fights, the main event fights, and give you guys a little bit context. Go do a little bit of a deep dive into this. It was a lot of fun. This is our first live stream, guys. There's lots to learn here, lots to grow, of course. As you guys are aware, I post daily. We'll have another video tomorrow. It's not going to be a live one. I think the live ones I'm going to save for like the weekend because there's a lot of fights and live events that happen. So eventually we're going to start doing some live events as well too. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys want to support our channel, we do have a memberships tag as well too. You can sign up for one of the membership tiers. You'll get a lot of exclusive behind the scenes and a lot of different content that I'm not normally going to post publicly. That's just going to be more for our community. But yeah, we've got a lot that's coming down the pipe. A lot of exciting stuff. Tomorrow's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Conor McGregor's return. He's going to be. It's been confirmed now that he's going to be fighting Max Holloway. This is the second time these guys are going to face each other. But the way the news came out, so if you guys notice, I did a video on this just a couple days back about the possibility or the rumors circulating about Conor McGregor coming back. But what makes this return so interesting is that Dana White waited until the Francis Ngannou fight, okay, yesterday, to actually make this announcement. So while this fight is going on, people were just stunned. People were looking at their phones. Social media is blowing up. Conor McGregor is returning. Dana White's doing a little presser. He did this on purpose to kind of jab a little bit into Jake Paul. Jake Paul was not happy. He was clearly disappointed with Dana White, and he was not happy at all. He actually he had a few choice words for Dana. Dana doesn't care as well too. I mean, both of these guys have a little bit of a history with one another. And look, at the end of the day, UFC had their fight yesterday as well too, Allen versus Costa. But it sounds like a lot of people were actually tuned into the MVP promotions card as opposed to UFC Fight Night. So that was interesting. Anyways, guys, lots to talk about. For now, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Please don't forget to smash a like and subscribe. Hit the notification so you guys never miss a beat. And definitely check out one of these two great, amazing videos. And I want to hear your thoughts and comments. What did you guys think of Jake Paul's first MVP promotions card, MMA card? Sorry. Did you guys like the fights? Did you guys like the action? Did you not like the action? Did you want to see more? What do you guys want to see next? I want to hear your thoughts, your comments. Let's start a discussion. Until tomorrow, I hope you guys have a great one. The pleasure was all mine.